Hey everybody, Elizabeth Varian here. Hope you lasted through last night's Law of Allowing teaching. I know it's a meaty law, right? There's no way we could cover every facet, but that's not what our goal was. You know, the goal for last night was to touch on all the parts of this one law and to prepare you for it. Because when we start setting intentions, which is coming soon, by the way, we really need to know we've got to shift to this last law. The sooner the better. As I stated, it's one of the most difficult parts of the three-part laws of manifestation. So tonight's video is on techniques and strategy. And I was trying to figure out how to separate techniques and strategy from take and see action items. I mean, in all essence, they both are pretty much the same thing, their work. But some techniques aren't actually action items, some are. And so what I decided to do this time around was basically split out the law of allowing into a couple of the most important parts of the law. Because the goal of doing this video and teaching the law of allowing first is to prepare you and to get you in the practice mode. Because this is one of the few laws that we have to practice. And because it requires training of the mind, and I tell you, we have to be related to cats somehow. We're so curious. We want to know when, we want to know why, we want to know how. Is it today, is it not? So I thought for techniques and strategy, what we would do is help you to do one of the most important parts. Not the most important, but one of the most important. And that's being present. Shutting the mind off. You're seeing this video through technology. You're seeing it either on YouTube or Facebook in our group. And you're either on your phone. If you're like me, you're on your phone watching this video. You've got TV in the background. You've got someone coming in and talking to you, maybe like me, a cat on the lap. And the problem with technology, though it has allowed us to, how do I want to say it? To use our time in a multitasking way, the downside of it is our brains, our main computer, our mind gets engaged and it gets overstimulated and it doesn't shut down. I haven't seen any studies, but I would bet that sleeping problems are on a rise, because how many of us take our phone to bed and put it on the side of our bed as our alarm and, oh, by the way, let me check this Facebook. I can't sleep. Let me go onto Facebook. Let me go onto Instagram. Let me go check my email. I'm checking my business email before my toe is out from underneath the blanket, right? So that being said, the third strategy, and again, the reason we want to teach it first is because it requires practice. Practice. And that is being present. And I will also have us with a touch of the letting go. Because as you learned last night in the teaching video, letting go requires a lot. There is not just one letting go. It's not just release. It's a lot of letting go. Which is why law of attraction isn't a one-time deal. I love the movie The Secret, but they were very tippy-toe touching barely the surface of a very large topic. And it is a life learning process. So don't be looking for the sprint. Look for the journey. Look for, the longer race to enjoy. I've been doing, without knowing the terms, law of attraction and manifestation since I was like 9 years old without realizing it. I paid attention to things, and I haven't told this story yet, but I had underneath my eye a broken blood vessel. And as a kid, I hated it. None of us want to stand out from people. We want to be different, but not that different. And I remember, without anyone saying anything or noticing anything, just focusing on it and it being gone. And it wasn't, I was young. I was like 7, 8 years old. But it was around 9 years old, 10 years old that I looked in the mirror one day and I was like, wait a minute, where'd it go? This thing had been with me all my life that I was aware of. And now this mark under my eye was gone. And it clicked in my brain to pay attention at that young of an age. And so I paid attention to things like that. I don't know why. I have a weird brain that I'm thrilled to have, I guess. So by releasing and focusing initially on it and then not paying attention anymore, removing my attention from it, that allowed the manifestation to happen. And these things, to my knowledge, don't just come and go. It didn't in the few years, the years of age that I was prior just go, but it did. It just went on its own. So what are some strategies and techniques that you can learn to help to release, to let go? So being present, as I stated, is one of the most important parts. And I will tell you where I got this idea from. I'll tell you as we go along where I get ideas, if I recall. I've done so much and so many variety of laws of manifestation, laws of attraction stuff that I may not recall where I got this from. But this one particular I learned probably 4 years ago, maybe. Time flies. But being present is staying in the now. It's not going to the past. It's not going to the future. We also talked about not having judgment. So the strategy I want to tell you about actually came from this organization in Fort Lauderdale called Self-Discovery. And I didn't think I actually got anything from that weekend until after the weekend was over. And this strategy is very much, actually there was a couple things I learned from it. And so I very much valued that weekend. But this strategy is one that I think is absolute. You think it's easy, it sounds easy until you start to implement it. So what we want to do is we want to be present and remove judgment. And by removing judgment, you're going to actually learn what judgment is. Labels are judgment. So what I want you to do is either take a walk outside. If you're down here in Florida and we're not all bundled up because, it hit 46 degrees, or if you're up north in the cold and you don't like it, then stay inside. But you can also sit on a patio, be where there's not necessarily technology, just be where there's a moment for you to not have someone talking to you or you to talk to them. And then I want you to just sit. I want you to sit and let your eyes just shift all the way around and take note of what you're seeing. Not mental note, just see things. The mind will start labeling things. Oh, that's a lamp. Oh, those are orange curtains. Those are judgments. It's quite frankly, it's a judgment. Maybe it's not a curtain. Maybe it's just fabric. So that's where it's going to an extreme. But that extreme will help train your brain. So what I want you to do is just take in your environment without mentally making judgments of what it is, whether you like it or not, whether you need to clean it or not, whether you need to do anything. And if you can build up to an hour of just sitting and letting your eyes just take in your environment. I used to do this in my 20s when I was in Des Moines, Iowa. At the bottom of my hill, I called it the mountain, was a lake. And Gray's Lake, for those of you from Des Moines that are paying attention. And I would sit at the lake and I would not make any note of the downtown backdrop. I just took it in visually. And I didn't realize that this was actually a strategy until I took this weekend course going, I think I've done this before. You will be amazed how meditative it is But initially you'll find how difficult it is to get this computer to also shut off. And I would say on a regular basis, practice this. Practice, practice, practice being present. And when we shift to learning law of allowing even more detailed, you'll be ready for it. And when you start learning to let go, this is a technique you can do if the mind starts getting overactive. You can let go by just going, what's my environment? Let's stop and take it in. And I think it was a fantastic lesson, and I'm very appreciative of it. Let me see if I can get this open. Perfect. So the next thing is one I'm going to tell you, oh my goodness, I have tried to do this almost all my life. When I was growing up, my mother used to do this, and I didn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. I've tried everything possible. And this year I went to a sound circle at the Kula Yoga Shala, which is near my house. And a lady that was going to the circle as well said to her this was her new addiction. And I said, I can't do it. I've tried. I just can't shut this brain down. And she gave me this mobile app. It has a nominal fee. I don't recall how much, but it was a one-time fee. And now I'm addicted to it. I'm totally addicted to it. So what is it that I'm talking about? Meditation. Meditation is the best, most relaxing way to de-stress, to come out of the busyness of the mind. When you start going who, what, when, where, why, how, when you start stressing, when worry starts coming over you, you'll start noticing as you do these strategies and techniques, your body, you'll feel how tense you are because you'll get used to being relaxed. I have been so tense this year due to dealing with death and stress and allowing fear to come in and dealing with all the obstacles that I'm talking to you about, that quite literally the very tips of my fingers on both my hands since the end of September, beginning of October, have been numb. I am now going to the chiropractor a couple times a week, and I started last night to a massage therapist who was really working in the knots. Well, it would have been much easier if I would have pulled back, which is why I like doing these training, because it's reminding me I need to do this and I need to do that. So it's called, let me see if I can get it in here. There you go. Insight Timer. INSIGHT Timer. It is both Android and it is iOS. So it is Android and iPhone. And as you can see, there's 136,349 people were meditating today from all over the world. And I like it because you can build up the various, let me show you, different categories, get on there, that you can do either music, you can have a 365 playlist, or you can do guided meditations. And in addition to that, you have your library, which I will pull up mine, and I am going to tell you that this guy right here is Mr. Sexy Voice. So if I've been very good, yes, I am a single female. If I have been very good, I will listen to Mr. Sexy Voice, David G. But there's different mantras, and basically you're going to find out which kind of meditation is best for you. The other part that I like to this, which kind of is counterintuitive for what I'm teaching today, is they have a blog section where you can join different groups. And I enjoy that because I enjoy interactivity with like-minded people. But if you can start with meditation, I've tried the guided meditations before. These seem to, that one doesn't work for me. So then I find another one. That one works. There's no right or wrong way to meditate. But if you can just calm and be still, you will then take the law of allowing to a whole new level. And the last thing, which sounds kind of crazy, but maybe it doesn't sound so crazy, but anytime I think of the law of allowing, I think of this. And it is both talking to your mind, talking to God and universe, and recalling within you the steps of law of allowing. Letting go, doing what you can, finding peace, and ultimately it's the serenity prayer. And of course we all know it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So if I was giving you great, in my opinion, starter strategies and techniques for law of allowing, being present and the start of letting go would be the very first thing that I would recommend. So try the self-discovery technique of just sitting and visually taking everything in. Pay attention to your mind, and you're going to start being able to separate out thoughts that you're like, that's not my thought. Because we take, the Bible says to take captive all thoughts for the goodness and glory of God. So why does it say that? Well, your ego creates thoughts that aren't actually your own. And if you're an intuitive empath like me, you can walk by someone or be near somebody, and I can actually pick up on people's thoughts. It's not mental telepathy per se, but I did have a friend that I could sit and think, like I did Frog once to her. I'm my warped sense of humor. I would sit and she was having a conversation with someone else, and I was just staring at her going, in my mind, frog, 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 right? And out of her mouth came the word frog. I busted out laughing. She didn't know what was going on, so I explained it. So the next time we were in that kind of a situation where she was having a conversation and I was just sitting there and I got bored, I started going, Superman, Superman. I'm not going to pick something common. And out of her mouth, sure enough, came the word Superman. And she was a friend that I had a good connection with, so I just knew it was going to work. It wasn't something I had read. It was just something I knew was going to work. And the second the word Superman came out of her mouth, she actually knew what was going on, looked at me and said, "Stop it! Knock it off!" So your thoughts that come in your brain, you don't realize they're not all yours. I do, because I did that in my 20s, and I still do it. I mean, it's too much fun not to do it. I know, shame on me. But so when you stop and you do the self-discovery strategy where you pay attention, you're going to actually pay attention to what thoughts just pop in and pop out. Sometimes, and we'll teach about thoughts later on, and I'll retell that story because I love that story. But you'll find that some of your thoughts are just aligned with what you're watching, a music, song you heard or a conversation you had. It's not even your thought. So then if you also start meditating, getting in the habit of the serenity prayer, there's a reason that AA uses the serenity prayer. They add on to it with the Catholic version. It's perfectly fine. I just think whether you use God or universe, it's up to you for your higher power. But granting that serenity, and every time I hear that word now, I think of Seinfeld, serenity now. But it is now, you want that peace and that calmness to accept things that you can't change. And sometimes it does take courage to change those that you can, especially when you want to align with an intention. So that is this week's, I should say, law of allowing techniques and strategies. And I hope they work. If you try any of these, put a comment in the video down below if you're on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, come check us out to the Facebook group to interact with everybody. And if you're on Facebook, you can subscribe to the YouTube if you want to be updated when the videos go live. So I will talk to you later. Tomorrow is Take and See Action Items Work. Have a great one. Bye, everybody.